Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Louise Edington. I am the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology and the Cyberpunk Witch Priestess to the Stars. I've got a bunged up ear for some reason. Anyway, here we are. I'm doing the week ahead forecast for the week beginning Sunday, April the 12th. And as usual, I've pulled some cards for it. There's not a huge amount of major aspects. This week we do have the April 17th new moon, which I did a whole video on, and there are some shifts and changes, but I hope to move through this fairly fast. Well, I pulled the cards as usual, and I've just realized I put them in reverse order, so I'm just going to swap them around a bit. Anyway, for the week, nice cards again. I do think good things are coming. I know it seems bad. King of Pentacles. And then we also get the Four of Pentacles, which is a lovely card. And then the Magician. And I also pulled the Exile from the Witch Oracle deck. We'll go through the cards at the end, as always. But before I start, don't forget to subscribe, all the things. Give me a thumbs up. I love your comments, even if I only manage to heart them. I try to read all the comments. I really appreciate the co-creative comments. If you choose to kind of really get on the attack, I will just block you. Anyway, there's been a lot of it. I was questioned the other day, really, kind of by somebody who hadn't watched it. Another person, not one I mentioned, about why I did the video on about the deadline of Donald Trump's threat to Iran. And they were like, there's too much fear in astrology. And you guys know I always talk about that. And I think and it was all this, we had this discussion about fate versus free will. And I also believe we have free will in how we respond to the energies. I talk about that all the time. That day, the thing I saw, and this person hadn't watched the video, it was it was fine discussion. I will say sometimes I think it's okay to say, hey, this has rattled me. I felt that that deadline chart had been chosen for that moment because of the intention. And my way of exercising my free will was to say, hey, I think this should be taken seriously. And maybe if we all pull together and try and stop this, it will avert something. And it didn't happen. I don't know whether my actions helped to stop it or whether it was the collective action. I do know a lot of my psychic friends said they had this big wave of fear, and they were saying the same thing too. And I'm a big fan, and I always pay attention to what comes my way in every other way. For some reason, I've been coming along somebody had referenced this person, Aaron Abke, who is questioning, trying to bring back the Nazarene message of the Christ, of Yeshua. Anyway, they were having a discussion of faith or works, and it's faith through works, most people, but blind faith is sometimes not enough, in my opinion. So, I'm not saying don't kind of try and pray and, pray for things. I'm saying do that, but do other things as well. What we're moving into with this new Aries energy is action and taking a stand. Okay, so there's different ways of looking at how you use your free will. And I do agree, though, fate versus free will. Also, just to say, I think all we can do is stay out of fear. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes you have to let the fear move through and say, what is this telling me? And then take some action, right? You can't, this person was not implying that, if ever you watch my video. Just to say, just stay out of fear is kind of spiritual bypassing. If all you're doing is going, I can't deal with this, I'm going to go, but then we also have to do our self-care. So it's all very complex, right? Anyway, I'm an astrologer. I did what I did because I felt I had to. It made me feel better having done it. And also, yeah, whatever. Anyway, we're going to look at these charts from a different view this time. This may have been a thing for quite a while, but I'm going to share the chart behind me. Wow. I believe that may have been a thing for a while, and I had not paid attention to Zoom. But anyway, this is the week starting April the 12th. Let me just check in with where we're at. The moon is in Aquarius at the start of the week. Remember, the moon also always spends a good couple of days in a sign. Pholus has stationed retrograde, but you know, Pholus is, I hate to say minor, because I actually think these main centaurs are pretty powerful, but it's one of those, you know, that the retrograde does not impact as much. It's the personal planetary retrogrades really impact us, and the station points of things like Pluto, Uranus, and things like that. But look at all of this, all moving direct. I'm not going to count the moon's nodes because they oscillate back and forth anyway, but look at this. Everything is moving direct. Uranus is now well into the last degree of Taurus, where it will sit for a few more days, really, and it will leave Taurus for the last times in most of our lifetimes, unless you're a little baby. Then you're probably not listening to me. This is Okiroe. I'm leaving her in for a bit because she's been really speaking to me. This is the galactic center because that's being activated again. Black Moon Lilith is retrograde, but again, I use the oscillating or back and forth true calculation of it, so it's often moving back and forth. So one thing that leaps out at me, though, is that this ascendant is conjunct the Sibley chart for the USA, the ascendant, and Black Moon Lilith at 12 degrees is right on it. So once again, the US is at the hub of a lot of the shifts that we're experiencing, as if people didn't know that. And then I just want you to look at how complex, how concentrated all of this is, right? Especially now the moon's in there. If you look at between Jupiter and Pholus, really, there's not much on this side of the chart. Everything is so compact and compressed, which is making everything so intense. But we now, apart from the moon, which moves fast, we now only have Juno, Pluto, and Chariklo left in Aquarius. Apart from the North Node, we only have Vesta, Mercury and Pallas, Athena, and Nessus left in Pisces. Mars has moved into its own sign, Aries, which is very direct, very fast moving, time to take action, to go back to what I was talking about at the start. You'll hear a lot of fear about that, but you know, Mars, you know, is the pioneer. It initiates things, so it's not all fear and violence. Mars was more than just war, okay? So, or is more than just war. Anyway, let's look at the aspects. We only have lunar aspects pretty much on April the 12th. So the Aquarius moon comes up and squares off to Venus at 15 degrees of Aquarius and Taurus, and those are fixed signs, and those are world points. We keep having these world points activated. 15 degrees of fixed signs, 0 degrees of cardinal signs are the main world points. There are some others, but I'm not going to go into those now. And it's a closing cycle. The moon is moving towards Venus, and Venus is in her own sign, very strong, and the moon is in the sign of the collective, humanitarianism, hopes and wishes for the future, but also kind of the bigger picture. I kind of see that as really good. This is showing us what we can do, pull more pieces together about how we can co-create the better future that we're moving towards. And I've taken my Hecate out. How could I? You know how she is my asteroid, really. So I've worked with Hecate for years. So anyway, right after that, the moon conjuncts Hecate, the lady with the torch, showing us the way forward. She is showing us which paths we can take. She's shining that big old light. But remember, Hecate is that triple moon goddess. So that is about bringing mind, body, spirit, and everything into wholeness as well, to find your way forward. Okay, then Venus does actually sextile Vesta, and the moon on the way to join all that. So the moon sextiles Vesta. Sorry, Venus sextiles Vesta first. Again, at that 15 degrees still. Oh no, it's 1601, but just close enough. Vesta is focus, commitment, devotion, right? So what are you devoted to? I've had all kinds of downloads about my next Venus class that's coming up way at the end of September. But it's an important Venus retrograde, and everything that activates this now is really speaking to me about what's coming through for that Venus class. So you might want to join it. People do it multiple times. And then the moon in Aquarius will sextile the Aries sun. So we get some fire and air, and will conjunct Chariklo pretty much at the same time. And then we'll sextile Chiron. So, the moon joins this and activates Eris and Chiron as well, and then Okiroe. Fire and air, ideas, patterns. Chariklo is helping us weave the new story, and the Aries energy is helping us to take action, to be the medicine, Chiron, and to create, to literally co-create the future, Okiroe. Okay, so moving on to April the 13th, Monday. The moon will actually exactly aspect Okiroe, but this is a really big day. This is probably the biggest aspect of the week, and this Mars will meet Neptune at 2 degrees 39 minutes of Aries. Now I have to tell you, going back to my Venus retrograde class again, these Venus star points are really important. Okay, and I will tell you why. Because the last Venus star point, let me just get my PDF up, because it's like so close in almost minutes to this conjunction. The last Venus star point, retrograde Venus star point, is exact actually, was on March 22nd, 2025 at 2 degrees 39 minutes. So Mars conjunct Neptune. Look, it's exactly the same. And the Venus star point was where the Sun and Venus met in the middle of the retrograde. And when they're activated, those star points, it's a big deal. But when you have two planets meeting like this at exactly the same minute as that point that was on March the 22nd last year, this is activating things that began then. Now, I happen to love this Mars-Neptune conjunction because that speaks to me of this faith through works kind of energy, faith through action energy. Mars in Aries, its own sign, action. Neptune is bringing that intuition and faith into it. We can't just go and all be monks and things. So anyway, that's what this is telling me. It's taking action, and we may see things that came up from last March. Oh gosh, I'm getting all distracted again, but I need to look this up. His story. So just a quick I don't want history board paper. So I want to take out what will happen in March 2025. Why does it do that? It goes in. No, that's not what I want. Now it's jumping everywhere. Let me, more haste, less speed, right? News. In the news, in March 2025, news headlines were about the Paris Climate Agreement. It was the 10th anniversary of that, and we all know what kind of happened to that. Oh gosh, I'm just going to look at the news because what I'm getting up is kind of things you can kind of go back and look at all of that. What was happening in March 2025? Apparently, one report said that the White House reported that the apparent resident was bringing back truth and justice to true truth and justice. Anyway, there was a big earthquake in Burma on March 28th. The Gaza war escalated with Israel, and now they're doing the same in Lebanon. So we had the genocide in Gaza, and now they're doing the same in Lebanon, as well as the West Bank. And so, anyway, Marine Le Pen in France was barred from running for office for 5 years and then sentenced to prison, thank heavens. So the French have some kind of things. You could Trump tried to make English the official language of the US. You can't do that. But anyway, there was all the Greenland rhetoric going on then. We had Doge going on then. And so just to kind of give you some kind of things about what was going on. Musk was also doing $1 million giveaways in Wisconsin to support a conservative Supreme Court candidate. We see that has just come back in the news with Democrat or very liberal judges and court judges being elected. So the tide is turning, I promise you. So we literally saw that then. So anyway, that's what this speaks to me of. And it's 2 degrees, the number of the divine feminine. Things are going to come back around from then. And now it's time to take action, more action on them. On the 13th, Venus and Hecate exactly square off. Now, I see Venus as Persephone in the Demeter Persephone story. And also, Hecate was the way shower that helped Demeter find Persephone by hearing her voice from the great below, from the underworld. So, all these things are coming together as we come into wholeness. And we raise up the divine masculine and feminine to be higher and at their best. And then Venus will sextile Jupiter. Now that is activating a conjunction between Venus, Jupiter, and Sirius that was on August the 12th last year, that 14 degrees of Cancer. I'm not going to move the chart again. But all these points from last year are being activated again. Venus is now moving towards Jupiter. Jupiter went retrograde, so he did not move very far. These are so-called the 2 benefics. I hate these terms, but they are generally they're more about co-creation and manifestation at its true level of real kind of, we can create this based on natural law and our desires kind of thing. So that's a lot. Okay, so then the moon will move into Pisces for a couple of days, right after that. So the moon enters Pisces for a couple of days, and then we only have lunar aspects for the rest of the day. So the moon will sextile, talk to the hand, asteroid Lilith. There's a lot of this energy of saying, no, we're not taking this, we're not doing this, and doing action. And then the moon will square off to Sedna, which is here. And Sedna is kind of like adapt. It's time, adapt for survival. Okay. And the moon trine, Hygeia, is about holistic health and preventative health. And then the moon will also trine Haumea. So that's making a lovely water grand trine, actually. I haven't got the aspect lines set for Haumea, but that's another water grand trine to this regenerative and erosive energy that is happening overall. And then Saturn will trine Black Moon Lilith. But lastly, the moon will conjunct the North Node, still at 8 degrees Pisces. It's going to move on very soon. But, that's activating the eclipse energy again, and where we are headed towards. That was coming up through the eclipses. On to the 14th, the moon in Pisces will sextile Ceres, lovely earth and water, very molding, very sculpting, creative energy, about creating things that feed all our needs. What else have we got going on? The moon will sextile Pholus. We're seeing more of, the out of integrity systems that we live under. But then Jupiter will trine Vesta. If you remember, Venus just aspect sextiled Vesta. Jupiter will make a lovely water trine to Vesta. The answers are all about blending this right brain, left brain, your inner knowing, and then taking action on it. That faith through works, you could call it again. All right. And then the moon will join in that party as well, with a conjunction to Vesta and a trine to Jupiter. So this is very expansive, very intuitive, listening to your inner voice, but then doing something about it. And then Mercury gets to the anaretic degree of Pisces of the whole zodiac, the last personal planet to do so of this big run. And Mercury will sextile Uranus at 29 degrees, 24 minutes of Pisces and Taurus. And this is about changing perceptions, but this is about waking up. Sometimes it takes the shocks to wake up, like, me doing that video the other day, but this is higher mind and lower mind. This is change how you're doing things, change how you think about doing things. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and take a stand, because then Mercury moves into Aries, and time to speak truth to power. Okay, because that happens later that night, literally at 11:21 p.m. after that aspect to Uranus. Mercury moves into Aries and joins that Aries party. Okay, on to the 15th. The Sun moves and connects with this little pile up here, ready for the new moon, because the moon is heading towards it. And the moon will conjunct Eris, the table turner. Funny, all these things keep coming up about turning tables. But, I talked about listening to Aaron Abke, the true message of the Gospels, but the true Christ. And that's kind of a theme that runs through many great religions. The true message is faith through works and looking after each other and love, seeing with the eye of the heart. And we have not done that. But we're going to turn some tables and say, this is not what we are here for, right? And then the moon conjuncts Pallas Athena. Okay, so some wise strategy, but coming from your intuitive knowing, through seeing, through the eye of the heart, let's call it. Then Mars has moved away from Neptune fast. Mars is moving fast. Sextiles Juno, our contracts with each other. We are not, so it's time to write new contracts. Mars is saying, no, we're not having any of this. Okay, but also, think how it's going to show up with them trying to, the people whose time is done, trying to kind of take action to hold on to their contracts. Right, we all have these contracts as human beings. And then the moon will sextile Uranus, activating that Mercury one at the last degree of the zodiac. Yet again, things are changing. Always when the anaretic degree is coming, we're moving into something new. And the last degree of the zodiac, Pisces, is a real boundary crosser, right? And then the moon moves into Aries. So there we go. And so the moon will conjunct Mercury on April the 15th at 0 degrees. Remember, that's where Saturn and Neptune met, and it's a world point again. And so, you know, the moon and Mercury, that's emotions and mind, right, left brain, whatever you want to call it, you know, coming together to actually do something. Okay. We're all playing our part in this, and that's where our free will comes in. Okay. I'm not going to go through all the minor aspects. The moon will then conjunct Neptune, however. Now, that's not exact like that Mars Neptune was, but the 239 where Mars and Neptune met, Mercury and Neptune meet at 2 degrees 44, so it's very close, activating that Venus star point. So time to take action and time to speak truth to power, right? You know, time to take a stand, get on your soapbox, whatever. All those things. And this is wherever you are in the world. Okay. And this is the moon. The moon will then sextile Juno, the contracts, and will conjunct Mars. The moon will conjunct Mars at 6:08 p.m. at 4:44 Aries. I love that got the 4 of Pentacles card. 4 is a number of stability. 3 4s. Can you imagine? This is like a big degree number saying time to build that more stable foundation to live on. 4 legs that holds everything up. Then the moon will sextile Pluto, you're kind of seeing more of the shadow. And then the moon will conjunct Saturn, saying deliberate action for the long term, wise elder kind of action. Okay, so on to the 16th. The sun will join Chiron, so, you know, shining the light on both the wound and the action, the medicine we can be to take. Many more things for that. And the moon will square off to Jupiter at the same time. The moon, sun joins Chiron, moon squares off to Jupiter right before the new moon. I suggest going and watching my new moon video for most of these as well. But then I do want to point out that Mercury will then meet Neptune at 2:47. So bringing that back in on the 16th, and will activate all of that energy again, saying time to speak from that place of faith through works. That's it. Okay. Faith through action, whatever you want to call it. All right. So on to the 17th, and I may just have to pause 1 second. I'll be back. Oh, Apparently I didn't pause the recording. Sorry about that. You just saw me typing. Never mind. We'll keep moving on. Oh my goodness. What a day. 17th. 17th. Honestly, the downloads, it's just like my mind is so fried. But anyway, the moon on the 17th is still in, sorry, the moon moves into Aries. I can't stand that being so big. Oh no. Now I've made it even bigger. More haste, less speed, right? This is taking up my whole screen and it's killing me because it's too big in my face. There we go. Okay, the 17th, Friday. Only 2 days left. You can see there's not many aspects, but they're huge, which ones we have. Okay, the 17th is the day of the new moon. As you can see, the moon is in Aries and heading towards the sun. We're in the 3-day no moon period. And of course, the moon will conjunct Eris and Chiron before the new moon, you know, adding to all that energy that I've talked about shaking tables. The real action will not start until the moon has moved 30 degrees away from the sun, but we'll feel this push to take action. Ceres over here still in lovely Taurus gets to that lovely 13-degree mark, the number of the witch or the goddess, and trines Pholus. The divine feminine in all of us is rising in response to what we see happening of the worst of the divine masculine, of the masculine energy that we all inhabit. And then we have the new moon. And then the moon, I'm not going to talk about it because I've talked about it on a whole video. The moon will conjunct Okiroe, the seer, the prophetess. And that is conjunct at 28 degrees 40, almost the end of Aries, saying, I'm showing you the way forward. You can see the way forward if you tune in, right? This is all what this tells me. Now, Venus on the 17th will sextile Nessus. He's been a bit quiet, apart from the moon floating over. He's still helping us to out the toxins and to see the poisons and to create from a different space. And then the moon will move into Taurus at 11:57 a.m. on the 17th. Now then, a big aspect for me on the 17th is that asteroid Lilith, talk to the hand, will oppose regenerative Haumea, just pure creation. And this is in resources. This is in build your inner and earthly resources. This is step into your deep sense of self-empowerment and gather all your resources to say no, and we are going to rise up, kind of thing. And right after that, the moon will join the party. So our emotions, so we'll feel this real, like, oh my God, we are rising up. Okay. And then the moon will square off to Pluto and Juno, saying, write new contracts, basically. Okay, on to the 18th. Not many major aspects. On that last day, you can see that the moon is now in Taurus, getting a bit grounded. And the moon aspects the nodes, which have moved off the 8-degree mark. Things are moving again, moving forward. Change is coming, people. Bigger change. You know I've been saying that for a long time, but big picture things, we're kind of at that last change coming kind of thing. Anyway, Neptune will square off to preventative health asteroid, Hygeia. Neptune's still at that Venus star point. This is time for that faith through action kind of energy. I think I'm just going to call the video that for the whole week. And then Mercury. Mercury's trotting along as well. Mercury will actually aspect Juno and Pluto as well, trying to speak about, what we are creating and from what's been revealed. That has to go, kind of thing. And then the sun will meet that Okiroe the seer, shining the big old light. Again, time to take action. And then, and by the way, all this is in the Venus decan, so this has got its feminine side of it as well. So the divine feminine is definitely rising. We finished the week with some minor lunar aspects. I'm not even going to talk about those because I want to get to the cards. And so here's the cards. And there's. I thought I'd lost it. I thought I'd lost my PDF for these cards. Oh, maybe I have. Oh, Lord. I'm actually just going to read from another book. So let me stop the share. Well, the King of Pentacles. The Pentacles are earth signs, and they are, earth signs are very much about the material world and creation. In fact, I'm going to read from my book. So, King of Pentacles. Okay, the King of Pentacles is really about material success, wealth and prosperity, fulfillment and leadership. But in this case, I'm going to say this is about values and goals. It's time to aim for abundance based on firm values and based on stability and confidence. Okay, and that really you are the king of your castle. You can create from that. That's what that's telling me. Then we got the Four of Pentacles. And remember I said that's a number of stability, foundations, and it's another nice card. This is really about holding on. Well, it's really about, holding on to what you value most and being grateful for what you value most, and perhaps doing away with everything else, because one of the shadows of our time is materialism and holding on to things and greed. So it may be time to really get in touch with what you need, what you desire. That's what that Four of Pentacles is saying to me. And then the Magician. Oh, I love the Magician, and I just love this card as well, right? So this is about creating magic, using all your skills, resources, and intention to create magic. You can do this. You are the magician. That's also Mercury in some ways, right? Is the Magician. So moving into Aries, and I'm going to be in time for my call. The Exile, card 38. Well, I'm not. I've told them I'll be 10 minutes late. The Exile. This is dropping down into your wound of unbelonging, to apprentice yourself to the lostness, to companion the longing to belong by asking what the longing wants from you. This is not about self-development or improvement, cutting away or transforming. Rather, it's time to ask the voice of the void what it is yearning to create in you. Yield to the ache. The longing is forging a sanctuary for you if only you'll follow its voice. There you go. I know it still seems rough out there and the energy's intense, but honestly, things are changing so fast now. Peace out.